Hello, everyone. Thank you for supporting my channel. Please consider hitting the like button, subscription button, and turning on the post notification bell for future content. Now, I'm going to get into all kind of crazy topics on this channel, but I have to kind of wrap this all up in a present in a bow with this debt, inflation, recession topics. But one of the last things I want to talk about in this video would be how the Fed's battle with inflation affects us all. What if the Feds lose the battle with inflation? Should you become an entrepreneur or should you attend college? Because people have options out here, right? But the first one is, how do Feds and their policies affect us directly, right? Well, when the Feds increase the interest rates, that affect our housing, our food, our education, paying for childcare, paying for daycare. It's one and the same, right? Until the child reaches school age, 12th grade, and then college. Now, the numbers I'm going to throw out here are minus college. Keep that in mind. The average cost associated with raising a child in America from birth to 18 is $250,000 or $13,889 per year per child. Adding children to the family also includes the cost of medical care, which is increasing faster than our incomes and other goods and services that we participate in. What if the Feds lose this battle? It's going to be ugly, I can tell you that much. What could you do to prepare? I have a couple suggestions. But these suggestions are not financial advice. So I would say, if you're older, maybe gold, something more stable, government bonds, right? Not financial advice, but central banks all around the world, they're buying gold like crazy because they can foresee what the downturn, what's about to happen. And gold is a hedge against inflation. So you'll have central banks, the Bank of China, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of England, the European Central Bank, um, the Federal Reserve Central Bank here in the United States, which leads them all, right? Our central bank here in the United States hold more of the world gold reserves. Our dollar used to be backed by the gold until about what, 1971, when President Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. And since then it's been fiat money, not backed by anything, not backed by any commodities. So our dollar is just floating out there with no protection. It was linked to petroleum, aka the petrodollar, through Saudi Arabia, right? That was the agreement that Daddy Bush Sr. and the Saudi king at the time made. They cut that deal. The United States, you protect us, and then we'll make your dollar the world reserve currency because we're the largest oil producing nation. If we require other countries to convert their currency into US dollars to buy our gold, they can't buy to buy our oil, they can't buy our oil without US dollars, aka the petrodollar. And right now, Saudi Arabia, through OPEC and all these other organizations, are teaming up with other nations because most nations like the United States are going green. So it's all in a matter of time before they don't need Russia's and Saudi Arabia oil. And the United States produce a lot of oil for ourselves, right? We're kind of dependent. We're self-sufficient in that area. But I said all that to say that gold is a hedge against inflation. And all central banks all around the world are buying up gold like crazy. So if you're older, that's a more safe vehicle to park your money into. Government bonds. The government's not going to go anywhere. The United States, whatever government bonds you buy. The UK, you buy gilts with the British pound. It all kind of works the same, except the US dollar is worth more than a British pound, so you'll probably get more for your money buying US treasuries. If you're younger, maybe crypto. Not financial advice, but crypto is it's a new asset class. Crypto been around since what? When was Bitcoin formed? Bitcoin was formed probably like in, oh, I'm gonna probably get this wrong. Like after the 2008 crash. Sometime after the 2008 crash, I want to say like 2009, Bitcoin came into existence. Someone, a mysterious person created Bitcoin because they lost faith in the financial system. Because everybody was losing everything. They wanted a different form of currency. So gave rise to Bitcoin, right? And for those who bought Bitcoin at a penny, a dollar, Bitcoin got as high as $65,000 per coin at its all-time high. Talk about winning, right? But crypto is more for younger folks like myself who have a little bit room to play around with your money, take a few more risks and things like that. Crypto for younger folks. Or you could bet against the feds, short the feds on assets you think will rise due to their mistakes. Whatever assets, oh, it's a million of them. But all of this can trigger a recession, a decade of stagflation, 10 years or more, or all out depression, a global depression. The world loses faith in the United States dollar, it's over. I don't care how rich you are. If the value of the dollar falls by 50% and you got $10 million in liquid assets, your value is now dropped to 5 million because the dollar is now halved. So if the world loses faith, like I said, with the petrodollar, Saudi Arabia now opening up the market to where they may accept Chinese yuan or the Japanese yen or whatever they're just going to start accepting different currencies. Little by little, they're losing the faith, and the United States has the world reserve currency. So if we lose that status, then it's going to be an ugly day here. Should you become an entrepreneur? I would say entrepreneurial aspirations aren't for everyone. A lot of people ask, is being an entrepreneur a good option? And a lot of gurus online and whatnot, whatever, they make it seem like it's so easy to do. Quit your job today and make $1 million tomorrow. It does not work like that. It takes the average business 3 to 5 years to even start seeing profits. And by the third year, most of those businesses are gone, out of business, did not make it. A huge percent of them never make it. Most entrepreneurs are forced to work long hours, keep the money coming in, and the business doors open. They have to find a healthy balance between work life. Can't have your family bringing out the pitchforks on you, hating you while you're trying to obtain your goal. So you have to have a healthy balance in that. It's challenging for most people starting a new venture. Frankly, one of the hardest things an entrepreneur has to do is balance work and home life. In addition to, of course, just time overall. Entrepreneurs have to source for products. They have to build relationships with manufacturers, multiple different manufacturers, broker the deals for those products. Anything in that on that timeline or that scale that breaks, it's the entrepreneur, the business owner that has to go in and fix it, not the employee. They have to manage the day-to-day operations. They can have a manager, but they're still going to, in essence, manage the day-to-day operations. Entrepreneurship is a good career if you're looking for independence, but please don't think it's less work because it's not. Now, I have a couple cons and weaknesses of being an entrepreneur. Cons being you have greater personal responsibility, potential financial risk, more personal stress, requires a professional network, meaning you have, like I said, you have to build relationships with manufacturers. It requires greater sacrifice, longer working hours, competition with other established businesses. You always have to be one up against your competitor, right? Or you'll lose that market share. Those are the stresses of the business owner, not the employee. Weaknesses, bad time management. Irrespective of what you do or how big your business is, time management is the most critical task for everyone in the organization, including the owner. Self control and stress, poor administrative skills, no sales skills, family relations. The biggest weakness, taking the first step to actually start an adventure. It may be quitting your job. There's anxiety in quitting your job and actually taking that first step to start something outside of the protections of being an employee, where you don't have these stresses, you don't have these worries. Everything is on your boss, right? The owner of that company. Well, when you own the company, it all falls in your lap. Like I said, the first step, putting a website together, entering a startup acceleration program, approaching someone with your first pitch. Can you imagine how nervous one must be when you're going to a person to ask them to invest in your company? You don't have to do that as an employee. You just show up to work, right? Put in your hours and go home. Or just announcing your venture to the world and your family and committing to dollars and credit that you have to start that business, capital. All of that falls on the shoulders of an entrepreneur. You have to do it. It's a day to day thing. And please don't think it's a couple hours and then you check out and go home. It does not work like that. How being an entrepreneur can be the hardest rather than easy. Is it worth it? Some of us say yeah, but we have the skills to kind of take it on, right? We're willing to take that first step. A successful entrepreneur is more likely to be wealthy. If they make it past that 3 to 5 year threshold where most businesses fail, if they make it past the 3 to 5 years, chances are it's an open playing field for them after that. All they have to do is maintain and keep up what they're doing. But that all falls on the shoulder of the owner, the entrepreneur themselves, right? If you're an entrepreneur, there's a great chance that you are likely to have a higher net worth than the average person. So those are the perks of being an entrepreneur, and those are what most people aspire to do. They see the entrepreneur winning, have resources, have, disposable income. It all looks attractive, but trust me, they work hard. People who start their own businesses enjoy the freedoms that lead to more opportunities and earning money. It's a given. You win, you win. Entrepreneurship is difficult most of the time. Most of the time, it's like I said, a lot of people just are not built for it. Some people are meant to be employees, and others are meant to be the owners. It's just how it works. Not a day goes by where most don't face a challenge, or most entrepreneurs, I should say, don't face a challenge, and the same will be true for you too. If you decide to start a business, it's not as easy, like I said, as these gurus try to make it seem. Quit your job today and make $1 million next month. It does not work like that. You will face a lot of hardships, and you will have to make a lot of tough decisions. Decisions that employees don't have to make. Can you imagine the decision to have to fire someone? One of the most uncomfortable things ever. You have to go in and have this conversation with another adult and tell them their whole livelihood ceases to exist, at least with this company. The look on some of those people's faces is hard to watch. But that's the task of the owner, the task of the entrepreneur. They have to make those tough decisions. The employees don't. The employees suffer the effects of it, but they don't have to make the decision. Working hard and playing harder. But I will put this in context. The entrepreneur works hard. Don't let these people come out here and tell you that being an entrepreneur is easier than being an employee. You have way less stresses as an employee than you ever do as an entrepreneur. 62% of business owners work over 50 hours a week. The average yeah. This number is higher than a standard 40-hour work week. So the employee works 40 hours flat. That's all they're going to work unless they're going to get overtime. But the owner itself, 62% of those business owners working over 50 hours per week. Trust me, it's true. When the employees are asleep, the business owner is probably up trying to figure out their next move. How to sustain, how to maintain, how to increase their knowledge, how to learn new skills, how to just everything. Putting in those hours. And it don't cut off. You could be up off work at home on your computer 1 o'clock in the morning getting it in. An idea come to you at 3 o'clock in the morning, you up. It's kind of how it works. Many people build their startups to be independent and work fewer hours, but it turns out differently. You think you're going to work less hours, and that's true if you scale your business to the point where it's just generating money hand over fist, and you could bring in a manager you hire a manager to manage everything, and then you could take a less active role as the owner. Then your responsibilities become less. But then you still have to manage your money. What's coming in, what's going out. You're not going to just leave it all up to your manager. If I were you, suggestion, even if you just go in quarterly and check your statements, your balance sheets. Yeah, very important. But those who work hard play harder. And oh, the play is fun. The play is when you go shopping. That's what everybody see, and that's what everybody want, because now you can afford those goods that you weren't able to afford before. Now you get to play, you get to travel, you get to buy luxury goods, you get to buy new homes and new cars and send your kids to private schools and the whole 9 yards. But not everybody's going to get to that point, and it's not for everybody, which is why you have institutions like colleges, you have trade schools, you have non-educational occupations where you don't need a high school diploma or a college degree. The pressures from society to attend college, let's get on that one. Because like I said, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. Lack of a steady income. Yeah. If this is a problem for you with being an entrepreneur, and you may not, you know, break even, or you may lose, and the income is not steady, those are the hardships of an entrepreneur. If you're not ready for that, if those are problems you don't want to tackle, go to college. Go to college. Because becoming an entrepreneur will not be the optimal career for you. As an entrepreneur, income is often feasted or famine, right? You either gonna make a lot, or it's gonna be little and far and in between. There's either too much work to get done, or there's not enough work to go around. That's the feast and famine. Either you up or you down. Most businesses fail after year 1, 2, or 3. So if those odds don't sit well with you, go to college, or don't go to college. Go right into the workforce. And like I said, because going to college ain't for everybody either. We'll have our parents who grew up between the 1950s and the 1980s, and college education was cheaper versus our college education in 2022, or at least up to 2022. They paid probably $4,000 for an entire degree, whereas we got to pay $30,000 to $150,000 for that same degree. Traditions from your family, societal pressures, keeping up with the Joneses. My neighbor kid went to college. They went to this prestigious college. My kid need to go to. So then they take out debt to make that happen. College is not for everybody, but most make it because they want to keep up with the Joneses. Yeah, parents want the best for their children, of course. But a lot of it be ego. A lot of it be pride. A lot of it be keeping up with the Joneses, right? When college students begin college, they experience pressures from multiple sources. For example, they experience pressures from, like I said, their parents to succeed, pressures from their professors, and pressures from themselves to do well in class. This pressure could lead to high anxiety and possible poor management in class. And that happens for a lot of college students. Why did you attend college? Was it because your parents wanted you to go? Or did you yourself want to go? Common issues for college students: social anxiety, general anxiety, test anxiety or panic attacks, family expectations or problems, depression, lack of energy or motivation, hopelessness, being overwhelmed, low self esteem, homesickness, loneliness, society pressures once again. But in with all of that, who truly benefits from attending college? The profits, right? Because tuition's going up every year, seems like, and has been since the 80s. But the people who benefit the most are not the college students, sadly enough. They get saddled with debt. The people who win the most, the bankers, the politicians, the college administrators, everybody but the students. The bankers get their money subsidized and guaranteed by the federal government. They get their money whether you finish or not. The college administrators get the fees off the rip. They're out of the equation. Once the banks cut the check to them, they out of the equation. They got their money. Meanwhile, not every career choice is best learned in an academic environment. What happened to trade schools, where you could get a certificate in 6 weeks and then jump right into? Why do you need a full 4 years? And I mentioned this in a previous video with my college experience. You spend the first 2 years repeating high school with your general education. How freaking boring. When you could jump into trade school for 6 weeks and jump into your field or start a business, start a practice. But like I said, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. But college is not either. Everything is not taught in an academic environment. And then people learn different. Some people are visual learners. Some people are hands-on. Some people are audio learners. They listen well. You got different. In college, it's one track. Teach to the test. Teach to remember to pass the exam. And most of us that walk out of them exams, 2-3 weeks later, I guarantee you ask us any question on that test outside of the obvious questions that are easy, ask the more difficult questions and you can't remember. You learn, you study just to take the test, pass the test, and then it's out the window. So people learn differently, but we're paying higher costs for a fairly standard academic structure for education that not every student or person can thrive in. Not everybody will do well in college. Can still be smart, but college is not the environment to learn in for them. They may need to go into a trade school where they get direct day-to-day hands-on. Not sitting with your head in the textbook. And then those people get written off as the disciplinary kids, or the the kids that don't want to learn, or the kids that are being rebellious. No, they just don't like learning like that. People learn differently. College ain't for everybody. So I would ask, is college the biggest scam in the United States history? Because the debt is up to $1.7 trillion. That student loan bubble is about to pop. But who got rich? Who got that 1.7 billion? Well, trillion. Who got that 1.7 trillion? Because 43 million Americans, college graduates, the smarter sector of our society, right, are broke. $1.7 trillion. Trillion. All because of social proof. I'll be better accepted if I go to college. I'll get into these social groups. And we're not even going to talk about fraternities and sororities. That's a whole nother conversation. But social proof, everybody's looking for it. Social proof is a very real pressure. And students go to college based off of that. It's amazing. Let alone the debt. Oh my God, the debt. It is mind-boggling to see all of these numbers. And they gave these decisions to 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds to make. It's amazing. But the pressure from social proof forced them to make those decisions. You know how many kids are in college changing their majors like 50 different times because they went into an institution where they were not ready. They changed their major literally countless times because they're so confused. Yeah, I want to be this semester, and then next semester, 2 semesters down the line, I want to be something else. But they're trying to please their parents. Or maybe they're the first generation person in their family to go to college, and now those pressures are on them. It's crazy. I'll leave that option for my kids. I can't. What happens after you graduated? What happened after you graduated? Did you get everything out of it? Was it a good return on your investment? Did you get your 150K back? Are you on the road to getting that 150K back? Lots of college graduates, I'm talking about with their bachelor's and their master's degrees. It's so many of them who can't find jobs in their respective fields of study. They graduate with all of this debt in these fields, and they cannot go find a job in those fields. They're working something totally different outside of their degree. Amazing, right? But they're in debt for it, and they're not utilizing that degree. How much and how long they'll be in debt depends on the terms of their loan. Some of them be in debt for 20, 30 years. Some people die with student loan debt on their Experian and TransUnion accounts. Yeah. Were you able to purchase your first home after you graduated? Did the banks deny your loan because you had too much student loan debt? It's easier to get a college loan than it is to get a business loan. So they'll give a loan to a teenager for college, but they will not give that same loan to a teenager to start a business. Did you get a good return on your college investment? Most don't. Was it worth it? Probably not. The negative aspects of going to college, a few cons. You may not gain technical skills. You may not get employable skills, experience. A lot of employers don't even ask you about your college degree these days. They want to know, are you well traveled? What are your experiences? What have you done in life? They can care less about that college degree. A lot of employers, especially tech employees, they're moving away from all that because they understand that these systems are just pushing and ushering through a lot of students, and not everybody is smart coming out of those institutions. So they bank on experience. What are your experiences? Screw your college education. What are your experiences? What places what places if any have you traveled? Do you speak different languages? Things like that. Other problems, negative aspects of college, you'll leave with a lot of debt. Talked about that a million times, right? $1.7 trillion. You'll be committing 4 to 5 years of your life to obtaining that degree. I mentioned earlier, you spend the first 2 years repeating high school. You're not guaranteed to find a graduate job. Same thing I just talked about with the master's degrees and the bachelor's degrees. It's people who cannot find jobs in those degrees that they have, in those fields that they have. They just can't. They're not there. No guarantee your lifetime earnings will be higher than a high school graduate. You're kind of like running neck and neck with them. So was it really worth it? But you dedicated 4 to 5 years of your life that you can't get back for it. Would you have done it differently if given a second chance? When I was 17, I wouldn't have signed for that student loan. I had no clue what I was signing for. For how long? No clue. But at 17, are you really ready for those increased responsibilities? Are you ready to make the one decision that's going to affect the rest of your life? That's a decision to be made at 18. I think it's not. You making a lifetime decision at 17. Things change. We all evolve and we all change. That's why I said people in college changing their majors left and right. I know so many of my friends change their majors. Like, I thought you no, I'm changing it. Oh, okay. All right. That's because they were confused when they walked through the door. But because their parents wanted them there, they quickly picked something and ran. Meanwhile, wasting tens of thousands of dollars. A lack of good time management, changing in eating and sleeping patterns. These are things that first year college students go through. Transitioning to college, a whole lot of stress, right? Pressures from your parents. Pick something, pick something, pick something, or I'll pick it for you. So most first year college students drop out. And I've seen instances where, young adults they will literally put on a facade, lie to their parents, make it seem like they're still going to school, and they have no desire to go. They doing something totally different. So for 4 years, they lying to their parents. 5 years, they lying to their parents until they can no longer lie when they can't produce a degree. Because parents tend to want to put it up on a wall for that social proof, right? For their friends that walk in the house. My child. Yeah. Meanwhile, child did not want to go in the first place, but to satisfy their parents, they went. Did not pick the correct major, would have chosen a different field of studies if they had more time to pick these things instead of being pressured to pick it. But this is what college students go through all the time, in addition to having to service that debt 6 months after they graduate. And most of them wind up back at home with the same parents that pushed them out at 18. They wind up back at home. They call them boomerang children, boomerang adults. You went out there and you turned around and you came right back because they don't have the financial resources to leave off on their own because they now have $150,000 in student loan debt. So I'm going to close this video out. I'm about to close this video out. I can't speak enough about this because it has to change. It's almost disgusting at this point. So, I mean, give our kids an option. Let them have a little time. It's nothing wrong with getting to 22 and then making some of these decisions. Let them backpack around the world. Let them get a job. Let them get some experience. And then maybe they'll have a better grip on life and they can make these decisions a little bit better on their own. Not forced by their parents, not forced by society, not because they're a part of the rat race, because they choose to. And then maybe we'll get back to some sense of normality because this is crazy. But like I said, I'm going to close out this video. I'll talk about things like this on a continuous basis, so I won't be short of topics like this. It's crazy out here in this world, right? So I'm going to close it out. But if you like this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and turning on the post notification bell so you'll know of future content I decide to post on this channel. Thank you for watching.
Smoking outside, trying to get your attention. You make me